Welcome to another free Cebas Visual Technology training video. In this video we will discuss how to create non-photorealistic rendering with the help of finalToon and the hatching map. But before we do so, this tutorial is meant to be as a start to finish tutorial. Let's pick a model first. I'll use TurboSquid so everyone can follow along. I'll type in house as a search term and let's go and look for a nice model we are going to use in this tutorial. There I see something. This European old house model. That's nice. You can see in the video the name of the model. You can download it and use it and tag along with the video. Let's bring it into 3D Studio Max. I'm going to open it and bring it into 3D Studio Max. So here we have our 3D model. It is with textures and everything. So really nice model. The only thing I have changed in that model, I prepared the video a little bit. I use the reset X form. Usually you should do that when you get models from the internet so that you can be assured that scaling, rotation and all this stuff is really good in 3D Studio Max, because that had a screwed up internal scaling transformation, so reset X form fixes that. And then I can see we have a skylight in that scene and an omni light. So let's have a rendering and see how it goes and how the model looks like. So for the purpose it was set up for, it looks pretty nice and renders pretty well in 3D Studio Max with the standard scanline render. But for our task here in the video tutorial, we want to go for a non-photorealistic rendering. So for that we can do some adjustments and modifications. For example, the material. Let's first start with the material and assign a different material. So I use a standard material. Let's have a look now how this looks like. So we're rendering with the standard material in scanline renderer and we get this AO look, which is really nice and impressive for the scanline renderer. So didn't know that he could do that in such a good quality. However, now let's add finalToon to it. We want some outlines there. finalToon is a render effect, so we add it from the environment and effects and we choose finalToon. finalToon is a really powerful and complex outline renderer, a true line renderer. But I'm not going into really deep detail about the outlines. This video is about the hatching map. So we just leave it as is and do another rendering. So we see the scanline renderer is rendering the first beauty pass and then the effect, the outlines will be rendered on top of it. So very beautiful. We didn't do any setup, we didn't do any adjustments, nothing else. And we keep it like that. We could dive into the line styles, but that's another video that will come out soon. So we keep it as is for now. And we keep on adjusting more to get it more into a artsy-like rendering or non-photorealistic rendering. And for that, I'm still not happy with the AO effect and the shadows and these kind of photorealistic effects. We don't want that. We want a really art style, hand-drawn, hand-painted look. So we are going to adjust now some things in here. And for that, I'm going to add our finalToon material. So when we do that and just use the original finalToon material, we already are getting into cartoon land or into non-photorealistic land. So finalToon shaders usually have really harsh contrasts when you use them with shadow, body and specular. So that gives you this cartoon look where there is a distinct border between these effects, shadow and specular. But I don't want that. I just want a kind of self-illumination, even out look. And then on top of that, we are going to add the outlines. So that's getting slowly there. That looks like a drawing, an actual drawing. And as I said, we are not going to work on the outlines. We could change them as well, but we are now working on the texture structure. So for that, we are going to choose the finalToon hatching. finalToon hatching is a standard texture map in 3D Studio Max, and it comes with procedural effects and also bitmap effects. We will start with the procedural hatching effects, because I like them really a lot, because they are fully procedural, so you don't need anything to prepare or draw your own bitmaps and textures and all this. You can start right away. So we are going to choose the Stippling Effect, which is like a point effect where you put your pen very fast on areas to simulate shading and gradients. So we're going to render that, and the first result is really not really nice. It's ugly and splotchy, and you really get no idea what it means. So the first thing, I'll increase the map size to get more details, and then we are also going to see and adjust the density of our effect, because we want to have them really strong and prominent. Another thing I want to do is the minimum level, which will also give us some effects in the areas that are illuminated. So we have hatching effects in shadow areas, in bright areas, specular areas, and in the normal illumination areas. So that's our minimum level, and the maximum level is the highest density, the blackest black, so to say, or the highest pressure. But before we continue, I'm going to get rid of the skylight. Actually, I'm going to delete the skylight completely, because we don't need that. We don't want photorealistic renderings, so we remove the skylight. It takes a lot of time in the scanline render, and we don't need it. So let's render without skylight, and you see already the rendering is much faster. So we have this setting here. The minimum level is working out pretty nice. Let me just reduce this a little bit to 10%, and we see, okay, it's getting less on the roof where the illumination is. And on the left side, where we are in the darker shadow areas, we can see there's some darker splotches there. So it's working out as we want to have that. And the next thing we need to go and work on is we need more of these dots. So I'm going to reduce the stroke size. And already we are getting some interesting looking results here on our texture or shading. So we can see it's already giving us an interesting effect or result, but it's still too big for my taste. So I'll reduce it a little bit more. And then when we reduce that, we are just going to render that. And let me just click that somehow. I lost my focus on the dialogues. Here we go. So what we are getting now is very fine detail, which is okay. It's way too fine right now, but it shows us another effect. We still have these weird shadowy things, these errors, these artifacts, and these artifacts are not nice. So I have increased the stroke size to get a little bit more of the dots back, but still we have these artifacts. And these artifacts come from our photorealistic rendering part, which we don't want actually. Let's check the light. So here we go. We have an omni-light and ray traced shadows, which is fine for photorealistic rendering, especially with the scanline renderer. You need these kind of stuff, but we want to create a really non-photorealistic rendering, and for that we are going to adjust our shadow parameters. So we are going deep into non-photorealistic land, but still we want a clearly defined shadow area, so I'm just increasing a little bit the shadow map size. And with the increased shadow map size, we get now the results we want or we are after, and that's the nice defined shadow areas. And now all is clean, and on top of it we have our stippling effect really working out nice. One interesting part in our shader setup is that we right now only have the body part of our finalToon shader active, which means there's no shadow and no specular calculations going on. But still we can see the shadows, and that comes from our hatching. In the shadow areas, our hatching algorithm automatically makes the dots stronger or darker, or increases frequency, depending on which kind of effect you have. We can work this out a little bit more and stronger when we increase our density, and I'm doing that now with a density of 300. And there we go, you can see now it's even much darker, much stronger, where we have the shadow areas with a much stronger hatching effect. But also the density, increasing the density increases the density overall. So we could adjust the min level as well, or the max level as well. So with the min level stronger, we get more prominent effects on the roof, and the other way around. For my taste, I would like to see more contrast, and we can easily achieve that by changing the body color. And I'll increase it to a brighter color, so nearly white or whitish color. And that will give me a little bit of more contrast between shadow areas, illuminated areas, and our hatching effect. Let's keep on exploring and choose our next procedural, fully procedural hatching effect, and that's the points effect. And the points does what the name tells you. It creates these little points or polka dots, or however you want to call this kind of effect. It's a very interesting rasterizing effect. Combined with other textures, you could achieve really amazing abstract, artsy-like renderings. But for now, we are just going to reduce the density because my shadow area seems way too dark. I don't want this black. These dots are really overwhelming and overpowering. So what we are going to do is maybe adjust the maximum level. Remember, the maximum level is the area in the shadow. How strong are the dots? How big, how dark are the dots? And indeed, that brings back some lightness in my shadow areas. We can also adjust some other values, maybe the size of the dots. So let me just reduce the size a little bit and let's have a look how that looks like. Nice, I love that. So we're getting there. That's a nice, real nice effect. And as I mentioned, you can do a lot of things with these hatching. You can combine the maps, color the maps, and do all kinds of stuff, but more later in this video. The next thing we want to explore probably is a possibility to use the same map in the shadow and specular parts of our shader. So what we are going to do is, let me just copy over the color and let's do a rendering like that so that we understand what we're doing now. So now we get specular highlights as a toon shader and we get the shadow areas as well. So, but now in the shadow areas we have no dots and in the highlights we have no dots. So all I do is I'll just instance the map over to shadow and instance the map over to specular. And now the cool thing is they will get the coloring of this area. So let's zoom in into the shadow area. Now our dots, or the three areas of our dots, will get the color of the shadow, which is 50% brightness of our original body color. And the other way around, we will have here overbright pixels burning out with 150%. So that's an interesting way to do it, but let me just turn it back. So, and now we're back to our one body color that controls everything. I still like that best, this look. But it's up to you, you have all the freedom. Let's just explore the next procedural hatching effect, and that's the vertical lines. I love those, and let's just render those lines. So keep in mind that's a procedural effect, so it's resolution independent. You would need some higher resolutions or bigger strokes. So let me just increase the size and we get this nice result here. So the one thing that bothers me is the shadow area. So we have this cross pattern there, and we can actually turn this off. We can say in shadow areas or in maximum level areas, we don't want a cross pattern. We just want thicker lines. And you can see now our shadow area is drawn with the vertical lines just thicker. And I love that effect much, much better. So I really love that. That's probably how you could do shadow effects, where you just increase the pressure of a pen, or you just go with the cross strokes and have the shadow more prominent in that areas. I don't know what you like best, but I'm not a fan of the cross stroke effects with the line styles, but I guess it's a matter of taste or up to you. So let's go and do the last procedural line type we have here, and that's the horizontal lines. Also very interesting. I turned off the cross strokes, so thicker lines indicate just the shadow areas or maximum level areas. So really nice and powerful. And same deal, you can always turn on all the other shading effects on top of our cartoon effects. So we have the thicker lines, and the shadow as well is leaking through our line style. Really flexible and powerful finalToon feature we have here. And that was all the procedural stroke styles we have. Now let's get into the real fun. The bitmap-based strokes, or stroke mask. So hatching maps is the most powerful feature of the hatching texture in finalToon. With the stroke mask, you can do whatever you dream of, and it's really powerful and flexible and unique to finalToon right now and 3D Studio Max. So what I did here, I just loaded in this little GIF file with the stroke here, and it has a color, so keep an eye on that. And we're just going to render that. There we go. There we have it. Very interesting looking effect, but still too big. Looks really strange, but we can see it's our stroke map or stroke mask we have here. So let me just reduce the stroke size a little bit. And there we go. Oh, beautiful. I really love this look. The only thing I might want to change is probably the color. I don't like the color. So we could change the original picture, our stroke picture, or we just go and say, no, I'll take the picture as is, and I rather want to change my color. So I'm not taking the color from the mask, so I will take the color black. And now I'm getting the result I'm after. Really nice. But what if I want to have a really defined color? So right now we are getting the black color. And because it's a color swatch, yeah, you guessed it, you can adjust it. Let's adjust it to a darker color, darker blue. And let's see how that looks. Ah, isn't that great? We are getting there. It's a really amazing, powerful feature. And I'm just doing the basics here. You have so much power when you start combining texture maps and using fall-offs and gradients and stuff. I tell you, it gets really crazy. And now talking about crazy, let's do something really amazing. We can also use a map to control the color of the strokes. How about we use the original map as our color map for the strokes? So what it does is it uses the original UV mapping on the object and the texture we have here. And now the strokes will represent the color at the pixels we have here. So what we will expect to see is our stone pattern, stone tiles, the colors, the spray paint that was on the building, and all this kind of stuff will be revealed based on our stroke mask. So that's a really powerful feature and function. You can create amazing effects and start mixing real and non-photorealistic in a blend you can only dream of. It's really powerful. Let me just increase the density so that we have a stronger effect there. And now you start to see a little bit of the brick structure, the brick tiles coming through. Let's increase this way high So 400. And now you see wherever our stroke is, we see the original texture and we can actually see the real brick texture coming through. Let me dial that back a little bit. So I love this look as it is right now. Really nice drawing-like rendering we have here. And even better is the plane effect. And here's our original one, taking the color from the map itself, so you could also prepare your strokes in any way you like. And talking about the strokes in any way you like, you can draw just like any paint package. Draw some black and white strokes if you want. You can make them color if you want as well, but here, look at this. Isn't that amazing? Just a simple bitmap and you get the hatching patterns already in your rendering. And it will do a higher hatching intensity in the shadow areas, as you can see there. Really nice and powerful. Let me just adjust a little bit the density so that we get less of this crisscross hatching. So I reduce the density now. Still in the shadow area we have more higher density. So that gives us a really nice, interesting looking result here. And this again, just a bitmap and control of the procedural hatching map. Let's try something else. For example, this cross. And that's kind of simulating a pen. When you try to shade with a pen and little X's you draw more X's in the shadow areas to get it darker, less X's in brighter areas. So that represents the shadow areas and the non-shadow areas. And that also creates interesting results, interesting non-photorealistic renderings. And keep in mind, you can stack these textures, you can add on top of that fall-offs and whatever you can dream of. So it's a really powerful non-photorealistic thing. And also keep in mind, we're not talking about outlines right now. I'm just working with a hatching map. So we're just working on the texture of our house. Let me just pick this abstract, artsy kind of stroke mask. So just these rectangles. And we can see already a very interesting effect here. Let me increase the size a little bit because you might miss our original map we had chosen here. So let me just increase that so that you can see it's these overlaid rectangles we have here. Also this, I love this kind of effect. It's really nice. You can create your unique styles really in no time at all. Let's move to something totally weird. How about some text or newspaper clippings? That also works. It's a standard map, and you can use this map and layer it on layer to simulate the shading. Another thing we can do is, let me just show another effect that's also very important, is when we use these swoosh style swipes or pencil drawings, and when we use that, we can explore a little bit more. That also looks interesting, but I think that's way too regular. I don't like that original thing. So I'm going to go and adjust the stroke regularity, how regular my strokes appear in the U and V axis. So I'll reduce them in both axes, and that will just give some random dropouts in the U and V axis. So it gets less regular and creates a very interesting look. And we can also do that to the rotation, and there it becomes really interesting when we have random rotation on our strokes as well. And I can do this random rotation with any map we had before as well, but now we have some really random rotation, and it creates a very interesting, unique feature and look of our rendering here. Let's increase a little bit the density so that we can get this a bit more, and I just love it. It looks really nice and interesting. And also let me reduce the size, and there we have it, an interesting looking non-photorealistic rendering. So to end this, let's do something weird. Let's get a point. We already had points, the procedural points, but if you use a point, for example, as a bitmap, so this is kind of a simulated point, then we get something very interesting. I love this structure we can get with a simple point or simulated point. We just increase that a little bit so that we can work out the structure a little bit more. And there you see, it's really interesting. And the great thing is all these regular settings we have to increase how regular these effects are still working with this dot, with this bitmap. And now when I reduce the rotation, look what happens. Because we are simulating a dot, so we have some pixels off, and the anti-aliasing together with the rendering and all this creates a beautiful texture. And this is a real nice look I can get out of a simple dot we have created as a bitmap. I think that looks really amazing and like you would shade it by hand. And as I said, because it's a texture, the stroke map, the possibilities are just endless. There is no limit to your imagination what you can use as a stroke map. It's a real powerful feature. So far I've used the scanline renderer to do all the renderings here in this tutorial. And that's fine. Scanline renderer comes free with 3D Studio Max. And finalToon works with all available renderers for 3D Studio Max that are 100% compatible with Max. So Arnold is excluded because Arnold is not a 3D Studio Max compatible renderer. However, finalRender is, and V-Ray for example, so you can use finalRender. And let me just set up finalRender a little bit, because we are doing here a non-photorealistic render. We can reduce the settings, we don't need global illumination and all this stuff. We didn't need it for the scanline renderer as well. And you can see it's much faster. It's much faster than the scanline renderer. And it also does the line effects in finalRender, which is really great. So you can just use finalRender and get a much higher quality as well. And another advantage of using finalRender is you could use it even with Active Shade. Let me just adjust Active Shade to finalRender. Let's get my settings I did there. And let's see how Active Shade works. So Active Shade works like with any other active shape situation. We can adjust materials, click on a material, and it will adjust our rendering right away. Let me just choose a different texture map so that we can better see the effects in here. So here we have the texture map. We can do all the adjustments. So there's actually nothing really special to it. So if you wanted to adjust it like that and don't press render all the time, you can use Active Shade for that. It's just one other possibility to use finalToon in a more efficient workflow in 3D Studio Max. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out our other video. There will be one coming with the outline explanation, and that will tell you how finalToon and the outlines work. Thank you for watching this video and hope to see you soon. Goodbye.